Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you very much for joining me here today. I hope you're having an amazing day. Now, this is your one-stop shop for cryptocurrency analysis, among many other things, of course. I do have a Signal group. Feel free to reference that in the description below. But more importantly, we're here to reference Luna or Terra Luna, essentially. It's a massive request from my community, and I just want to make sure that we take a look at the technicals. There's no fundamentals here. You can feel free to do your own research in your own time. In fact, I'm not a financial advisor. This is for educational purposes only. Always do your own research. Okay. I just have years of trading experience, and my goal is to help you trade for a lifetime instead of for just one day. And if you would like to trade kind of more passively, I share all of my trades with my Patreon community. Link in the description below for that. I recommend registering on the first. You get most value considering they bill monthly. But generally speaking, I do share my swing trades and my day trades with my community, and you can go ahead and jump on in when you want and exit when you like. I have profit and sell targets there to make it really quick and easy for you. All right, so other than that, honestly, let's just go ahead and check it out. Oh, feel free to reference my Telegram community too. Really good group of folks there. You can learn a lot, passively, no cost. Great thing there. All right, so let's go ahead and check it out. Let's get to it. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a look at Terra Luna. And before we do, we always look at Bitcoin and Ethereum first to get a baseline of the market so we know exactly what's going on. So if you're new to the channel, we always just do a quick analysis on the two largest coins in the industry to kind of see what's going on, because obviously the market is contingent on Bitcoin movement, and Ethereum is usually the secondary coin that a lot of people flock over to when Bitcoin does poorly. We'll see what that looks like here. So first things first, we're going to look at, of course, this is TradingView desktop application. This is Binance, Bitcoin, essentially the 4-hour chart. Always look at the 4-hour chart because it's the best chart to use for like quick perspective. From an bird's eye view, so to speak, to see what's going on, because you get the best price action, as well as the simple fact that the simple moving averages are the most effective here as well. Some people prefer exponential moving averages. I like the SMAs myself. I think EMAs are more effective on shorter time frames. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look here. First thing to note is that we do have this golden cross that drove the price up here, or just more importantly, the fact that the price action had crossed or intersect there with the 50 and the 200. So to rewind, the 50-day simple moving average is this orange line here. The purple is the 200-day simple moving average, right? And when they intersect in upward fashion, it kind of drives the price up further. Granted, that was partially coincidence, but also there's some truth in that too, right? Because there's no real need for it to drive the price up, because the price action is already so much higher than the actual moving averages, but there is kind of that. So pay attention to that. You can see the inverse apply here as well, where the price tried to get pushed down and it got rejected, of course, but that's generally the concept. All right. Furthermore, we've got a super, well, I wouldn't say super, but it's a pretty strong resistance at about 40,500, maybe even 41,000 if you want to consider the fact that it did break above the 4-hour chart here for 2 hours. And that was what? That was, I don't know, 8 to 16 hours ago. All right, so just keep that in mind. Furthermore, we have a major support at 30,000 and a current tentative support level at about 37,000. This was tested a few times, rejected. I noticed this a couple of days ago when the price action retraced from the Amazon news coming into play, and then it came back up again. So it does show that the price should be in this range right now. There is also a channel between 34 and 37,000 that could be a secondary channel if we come down and break this current support of 37,000. All right, moving on to Ethereum. Very similar situation here. I mean, if you look at these two, you kind of compare the two. It's just kind of like a slower version of Bitcoin, right? Normally, it's an advanced version of Bitcoin. You look back here, this is what happens when Bitcoin goes sideways. However, right here, this is what happens when the price action gets beaten down for so long that there's no other choice but to kind of trail behind Bitcoin. So Ethereum isn't super strong right now, but it is recovering. It's soon to test the resistance about 2,400. There's also a major resistance here at about 2,900. It should be up in this level right now. That's where Bitcoin is right now. If you kind of compare the 4-hour charts and you see how much action has happened here, if Ethereum was following Bitcoin exactly, then it should be right up here at about 2,900 where it's not. So that's why I say it's kind of like the ugly stepchild for Bitcoin. It's doing okay for Ethereum right now based on the fact that it hasn't been doing well overall in general since that happened. But good news is it's still affordable, still a good price. So feel free to jump on in there. But I wouldn't expect to see any major breakouts from Ethereum until Bitcoin surpasses 40,500, maybe even 42,000, which was a previous resistance. All right, so that's kind of where we're at there. Again, major support 1725. major resistance 2,900, and we're kind of right there, fair to midline. All right, moving on to Terra Luna. Let's take a look at 1-day chart first. We always do this because it gives us the best, big picture. We want to look at the average true range of this coin before we jump on into, shorter time frames, because the 1-day chart has a lot of benefit. So first of all, we want to look at the impact of Bitcoin from the 17th on of April, right? Because that was when the first major sell-off from Bitcoin occurred. That's this guy right here. So if we look at the 17th, approximately, just say that 2 to 3 day range, we're looking at about a 30% decrease for Luna, whereas Bitcoin decreased 15%. So that's twice the loss as compared to Bitcoin. Is it because Luna was overinflated? Perhaps, but maybe this is the average true range for it, because as you can see, it recovered when Bitcoin kind of went sideways, and then of course it lost out on the 19th, which is the biggest, largest, loss for pretty much every single altcoin. I mean, ouch, that was a 43% decrease in 1 day. Pretty rough day for a lot of folks, I'm sure. But bottom line here is the average true range is somewhere in the range of about 1270, upwards of about, we can just say round number $20. So 12 to 20 is a rough estimate there. Split the difference, we're looking at 16 is kind of the average true range. Okay. With the price action being at about 12, just say $11 is a round number, 1087, we do still have some room for improvement, right? It's a good thing to know here, because even though it has ramped up fairly well, is it going to continue? That's the question. If Bitcoin jumps past 40,500, which is testing right now, I think we're going to see Luna continue to progress upwards. On the 1-day chart, RSI is up over 70. This is typically a signal to consider trimming your position, but you don't necessarily have to. I'm a firm believer in waiting for the RSI to start coming back down before selling your position or trimming, taking some profit. Okay, so it's still on the upscale, so just kind of hold on and wait. We'll see what happens. We do have a major convergence, of course, on the 22nd. That's pretty consistent with a lot of the price action for just the general sense of the fact that we had pretty much every single altcoin ramped up when Bitcoin jumped through 30,000, right? It was stuck under there for about a day and a half. Anyways, let's go ahead and just mark that there. I like to kind of put that on the map, and we'll take a look at the 4-hour chart and kind of see where that's at. So let me mark that just a little bit nicer. Yeah, let's try that again. So that's about where the 1-day chart gave us the convergence on the MACD. So I always like to look at that and then compare it with just say more recent ones. Well, we can go back here as well on the 20th. That was the first initial convergence. Bear in mind too, the MACD is very much more beneficial on the 4-hour chart, in my personal opinion. I think it works really well. So utilize that if you can moving forward, because when we look at these convergence and then we compare that with the Ishimoku cloud on the 1-hour chart, there's commonly like a 2 or 3 hour variance. They're both telling us we got strong buy signals. We'll look at that here in a moment, but generally speaking, at this point, we've got a pretty good. I mean, if you take a look at this bull run, the price goes up, sideways, slight retrace, up, pretty much sideways. I mean, you can see a constant variable here. So the scenario right now being where it's at, with it being up over 70 on the RSI, over 70 on the 4-hour chart, it's probably safe to say we're going to see some sideways action for a little while. And if Bitcoin can continue to test 41,000, so say 41,000 range, and stay up there and have this this increasing wedge pattern, then we're going to be in pretty good shape to see Luna take off again and go ramp up. Because I mean, as you can tell, we have a nice staircase pattern here for Luna, and that's a really, really good sign. Those are really strong bull runs. Those are things you want to have, because every good bull run has to have a time to calm down, a time to relax. It can't just be straight up, right? Because anytime it goes straight up, you've seen this before, it goes straight down, retraces about 50% of the way. To avoid that retracement, we need to see Luna shoot up and over, and consistently do that, which it's been doing so far. It's a little overextended right now. It's about up 15% in under 8 hours. So I'd say that we're at a point right now where we want to see Luna go sideways. Even a little bit of retracement would be perfectly fine. As long as that happens, we should be in good shape. Again, does depend on Bitcoin. If we take a look at Bitcoin right here, same scenario, of course, it's doing a very similar pattern. But if it can continue, because there's like a wedge pattern it's working itself into, these type of wedge patterns typically break up, not down. I would say like 60-70% of the time you're going to see that come up. So just something to be mindful of, right? So we see that with that, and then we go over to Luna, and we see a very similar scenario. We're looking at a wedge pattern here. Hypothetically, again, I'm just drawing random numbers right now, but this is generally what we're looking at, right? So we want to see some sideways action and then a breakout. Okay, again, kind of depends on what Bitcoin does. This isn't super reliant on Bitcoin, but it also is too. Most altcoins have no other choice. They cannot break free from it. And the main reason why is because you can use Bitcoin to buy Luna, right? You use Bitcoin to buy everything. That's why it's the big dog and it's the one that controls the market. I think it'll always be that way, even though it'd be nice if it broke away until we see some major changes in crypto. We're probably going to see this as a pretty consistent thing. So get used to it, adapt, learn what you can, and figure it out. All right, so we've got the 4 hour and the 1 day here, right? So let's go ahead and move on to the 1 hour chart. And I want to just note that these are the convergences that I marked on, from the MACD, right? So why don't we turn on the cloud here? And if you're new to the cloud, it's called an Ichimoku cloud. Fantastic. I mean, you just go to indicators and type in Ichimoku. So Ichimoku cloud, just go ahead and click on that guy, enable it. You might want to disable a few things just based on the fact that it has a lot of indicators present, but the main ones that I like to use is just the cloud. So we take a look here, and just to note here, if you're new to the cloud, anything, when the price action is above the cloud, so say for example right here, perfect example, that's when it's considered a buy signal. When it's below, for here for example, considered a sell signal, right? So that's kind of what that looks like. Now I don't need to mark this because you can quickly see on the 1 hour chart that that is obviously where the time comes in. But when you look back here, we got a convergence on the MACD. It's probably right here at this mark at 1800. So 6 p.m. Pacific, we've got a convergence on the MACD. Not less than 8 hours later, the price breaks through the cloud. So the convergence was telling us that the price is increasing. It's shifting from bearish to bullish. Price swings up like this, and then coincidentally, the Ichimoku cloud is telling us we got a buy signal. So had you waited for the 1 day chart to get the indication, you would have been a little late to the game. That's why I prefer the 4 hour chart. It's a little bit quicker. It's a much better time frame for finding good entry points on swing positions. So these are things that I look for, and I utilize all this in my swing, my swing trading within my my signal group. So I have swing trades, I have day trades. That's all in there, of course. But when those signals that I send, I'm looking for convergences on the MACD. I'm looking for the price to increase over the Ichimoku cloud, and then concurrently, I'm also looking at TD sequential. So let's go ahead and see if we have some type of overextension. And look at that. This is something that's really cool. Now, if you're new to TD sequential, it is it's time to mark sequential. So basically it tells us when the price is considered to be at a state of exhaustion, right? So now it doesn't always work. Don't get me wrong, it's not foolproof. It's not 100%, but when it gets closer to a 9, it tells you that we are reaching that max potential. So this is another reason why I think we're looking at a retracement. If you see these numbers here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're at an 8 right now. In other words, the fourth previous candlestick closed lower than before, so in turn it keeps counting up, right? So in other words, it shows that momentum, that continuation of a bull trend, and of course, same thing with the bearish trend on the inverse. But what I'm getting at here is a simple fact that until we see a 9, then we're not going to be, then we should expect to see more continuation, right? So hypothetically, we see a 9 close here. In other words, 1 more hour and we get a 9, we should expect a retracement and the price to probably come back down. It can come back down for another 8 or 9 hours and then come up and retest this line here. So that's probably what we're going to see here. So TD sequential is kind of telling us that we have roughly 1 more hour until retracement. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the 15-minute chart. And let's go ahead and clear all this junk off here. And what I like to look at on the 15-minute chart, first of all, is EMA and VWAP notifications. Now I have an indicator here that I share with my signal group, and what this does is basically just notifies you when you have a good entry point, potential good entry point on the 15-minute chart. Okay. Now what I mean by that is I always utilize the 15-minute chart and specifically the EMA 15 and the VWAP on that time frame. It's my favorite time frame. I've done day trading for a long time. I've done a lot of swing trading in my days, but ultimately it works the best for both, right? You don't have to be a day trader just to use the VWAP tool. It does help, of course, but finding a good entry point, you really utilize this. Okay, so let's just go with this here, for example, when Bitcoin had its little bull run in the wee hours of the morning today, right? Actually, correction, this looks like yesterday. This is when it bounced off of the support level of 37,000. Luna did the same thing as well. Now, first of all, these EMA and VWAP lines, the blue line is a VWAP, that's a volume weighted average price. So VWAP, VWAP, you've heard it maybe in different ways, and it really tells us what is going on with the price. It basically works as a support level and or resistance. In other words, it takes the volume last 24 hours, expresses it as a price. So when you look at this blue line here, at this point in time, it's working as a support, and when a price breaks below, it's considered resistance. It has to reset every 24 hours. That's why you see these cliffs, these shelves. Those essentially are just resetting the standard deviation lines for the VWAP. Regardless of all that, just remember it's a consistent support and resistance level. Nothing much else you need to know. So right now we got the price action. Let's just say, for example, right here, and I'm gravitating towards this because my notification is telling me that we have some buy signals here, and I'll explain what I mean by that. In other words, we got this area here, these yellow candlesticks, or more so the green candlesticks, but the yellow up arrows are basically telling us that this is an entry point. And the reason why it's telling us that is because the price is over VWAP and EMA. Now, EMA is essentially an exponential moving average that just takes the volume, that takes the price, and it basically plots it out on the price action here and tells us more specifically as more bullish or bearish trends. Now, an EMA line isn't as simple as an exponential moving average of 15 days. It takes a lot into consideration. You can look it up in your own time. But an EMA line is helpful because it responds quicker to the price action, which is why we don't use the SMA lines on the shorter time frames here. Whereas the EMA 15 works the best for me. The default is 9 and 20. I prefer 15 because it splits the difference and I have less indicators on the screen. I think if you can get away with using only 2 to 3 indicators at a time, you're going to be much better off. But just keep that in mind. You don't want to have a lot of conflicting information because good traders will use specific time frames with specific indicators. And that's usually what I choose to do. Anyways, what I'm getting at here, to make a long story short, is when the price action is above EMA and VWAP, that's step number 1 and 2. Step number 3 is to confirm that I have confirmation. And to me, confirmation is 2 solid 15-minute green bars closing in order. In other words, if you see this is, we have 1 solid green bar here and 2 solid green bars there. So those 2 in order basically gives us the buy signal to say, hey, this is a good entry point. And the reason why is because you're not just jumping in willy-nilly. It's not like 1 minute ago the bulls took control. They have 30 minutes of control in this time frame, telling us that, well, the momentum is shifted, right? We're above 2 support levels, and we also have confirmation the bulls are in control. So why not go long? Okay, so hypothetically you'd gone long right there at that point, and you came up here. Again, these are all just rough estimates. You could have, again, best case scenario, 15%. Probably on average, you're likely going to probably sell somewhere in this range here, depending on where you're at. Because again, RSI is overextended. You can see that, right? RSI is upwards of 91 here at this point. So holding on that long can be very scary and concerning, right? So this is good, 3 to 4 hours of just straight profit. So, again, I wouldn't fault you if you trimmed your position here or exited your position there. But the bottom line here is that if you can find a good entry point, that's the half the challenge, right? You're not trying to buy the bottom with this theory here. I mean, this is not a theory correction. It's more of a, something I've fine-tuned over the years. But I can tell you, you're not trying to like, oh yeah, this is a much better value. Why didn't you buy back here? Because we didn't have confirmation. We didn't know the bulls were in control yet. We didn't even know we had, the price, the momentum was in the right direction at that time. We didn't even have support of the VWAP. Why even touch it? Anyways, those are just little things that I kind of go through and I look at, because every time I do a trade, and again, I share my trades with my Patreon community, I look at all these things here, top to bottom, right to left, whatever you want to call it. You want to look at everything and make an informed decision. You can't just jump in and do this right here specifically. It doesn't work if you just do this one thing. It helps to look at the average true range, Ichimoku cloud, 4-hour chart for the convergence, divergence, and just look at a few things. The more time you spend, the less time you're going to spend losing, right? I mean, I have over an 80% success rate currently so far with my patrons, and it's because I'm a patient trader. Yes, I don't get signals out every single day. And yes, the market's been a little crazier than normal lately, but I can tell you that if you are patient and you're smart, then you're going to be in a much better position. And if you're lazy, feel free to join my Patreon account, of course, because I make this much easier, and I'm making some additions too to ensure that we have some good swing trading opportunities, and just ultimately making a good experience for everyone. So feel free to check that out in your own time. But thank you so much for watching this video this long, of course, because I know it can be challenging to want to sit through this type of content. But charts are fun, charts are exciting. There's lots of good opportunity. Oh, I'm sorry, to summarize my prediction for Luna. Okay, so to kind of get to the reason why you're here, I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to drag that on. I do have a tendency of rambling. Let's go ahead and pull this up. Let's go back to the 4-hour chart. And just note here, first of all, average true range, we mentioned it, 12 to 20. So average of $16. Let's just split the difference. That's the average price before the insane sell-offs from Bitcoin, right? So the Luna was averaging $16 for that 2-month period before the China candle occurred, right? Price right now is at, just say, a round number of $11. So we have at least $5 more worth of growth between now and the time in which it hits its average true range. Now, will it hit that again? Less likely, based on the fact that Bitcoin was hovering around 50 to 60,000 when Luna was doing its thing, at its best. But as we can see, what kind of increases we've seen here so far, 30 to 40,000 from Bitcoin gives us an 87% increase. So if we can go from 40,000 to 50,000, that'll put us right up here in the range of about, what do you know, almost exactly $16. So yes, we can get back to 16. My prediction would be 16 if Bitcoin hits 50,000. But if Bitcoin keeps testing 41, 40,000 range and keeps getting rejected and shoots back down to 37 to 34,000, that channel there, then we'll probably see a strong retracement from Luna. So it really all rides on Bitcoin. Big surprise. We see that happen all the time. But just something to note, okay? So just be mindful. Good news is we're up over support levels. We've got some good stuff going on here. But right now, Luna is kind of an uncharted territory for the most part because this big leg down really screwed things up. But I do foresee $16 as an average price if we can get closer to 50 with Bitcoin. So again, I hope you found this beneficial. If you did, feel free to like and subscribe. Reference my Telegram community too. Got a really good group of folks there. It's a really good place to get to know more crypto stuff. And I really want to thank you again for joining me here this far. Hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll see you the next one.